Hello and welcome. This is Tamara Anderson, speech language pathologist and education specialist and consultant from Building Successful Lives Speech and Language Services. I have a wonderful guest today, another fellow speech pathologist, Bianca Langford, and she's going to share some wonderful information with us, other speech therapists and so forth to learn from. So I'm just going to have her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her background and her professional experience. And then we'll get into our topic today about diversity and emotional intelligence, which is a well-needed topic in our field and in various corporate places as well.
Hi, my name is Bianca Langford. As she said, I'm so glad to be on the interview with you. I've been in the field as a speech pathologist for about 18 years. I don't like to say it because it makes me seem so old. But I started off in the school system, and then I moved on to skilled nursing facilities and home health. And right now, I'm in multiple settings. So I've had experiences being a rehab manager over in the home health setting, and I've also had my own practice where I've had contracts with pediatric population. So I have a very diverse field. I've experienced working in almost every setting. So my favorite portion of our field is communication. I love with the adults, I love stroke patients, and with the children, I love communication and language.
That's wonderful. We have some similarities because my first job, I started off working in the hospital setting with pediatric and adult stroke patients and so forth. So we definitely have some similarities with our career path that we've had. So that's wonderful. What is the name of your private practice?
Cahaba Therapy.
Okay, wonderful. And do you primarily serve adults through their clinic or private practice services?
It's primarily children. I had one adult, but I just did children. I took the children mainly in the private practice.
Nice, wonderful. And were you doing contract at the actual school or more early intervention or home-based services with the kids?
In the beginning, I did early intervention, and I also did some screenings and went into the daycares, and I had patients in the setting, and I also just had referrals from the pediatricians that need referrals. So now it's primarily just a school contract.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so I invited you on the talk today because definitely wanted to it's always nice to have a variety of perspectives from speech pathologists of how we approach our work. And when we look at the topic of diversity, topics of diversity and inclusion, it's just very important to have a breath of fresh air and various perspectives. So let's talk a little bit about how has your background, professional training, and life experience influenced your clinical practice as a speech language pathologist? And why do you believe diversity is significant in our field? There's been a lot of talk in recent months about diversity and all that, but I just wanted you to talk about your background and your take on it.
So anytime that you work with the subject, you're going to experience working with different people, different culture, different background, and so it's very important, not to take your own philosophy on and just recognize the differences that each, that everybody has when you're working with them, so that you can serve them with, and not be biased, not show any prejudice or anything like that, but just treat them, recognize the differences and show respect and be able to get the job done. And so I think in every setting is different, with the schools, with, that's the beginning stage as they're young, and then in the nursing home, they're pretty much, most of the time they're rehabbing to go back home. In home health, you see people in the homes. I think I had most of my experiences in the home health setting, and you get to see how people live, and you see the differences, and you have to be respectful. You're in somebody's home, so that you learn a lot, from just doing that. You have to be sensitive. I think most things that I grasp from being able to work with people is just kind of being grateful, because you see when you in somebody's home in their space, you see the challenges, with having a communication disorder. You see how you can see the benefits of when it's, how it's affected them, and then you can also see the progress, and so it just makes you be thankful, So. Yeah.
And I know the families are very thankful that you can come to the home and remediate the communication disorder or swallowing disorder of their loved one. And I know I've done some home health too, but primarily with children, and being in their natural environment is just a great way to do therapy and evaluation. But definitely you can see all the different socioeconomic backgrounds and various backgrounds that they have, whether it's culturally, racial backgrounds. But just be respectful and to be empathetic with them, whether they've been through a stroke or a car accident or various things that have caused them to have the communication impairment. Just being able to make that connection with the families, I think that's so important. And as speech pathologists, I know we're communication experts, so being able to, relay various information with the families in a way that they can understand. You can switch up the lingo, as I call it, based on the needs of the family to make sure that they can comprehend the information that you are sharing with them. And to be, I like what you said about being respectful and being sensitive to their needs. And you're in their home, they're welcoming you into their home, right?
A lot of times you have to educate people on communication disorders. They don't feel, they have an opinion on therapy sometimes. And so you definitely, even if it's children or adults, you have to educate them and let them know the importance and let them know the strategies and all that kind of stuff. And that could be a part of the diversity portion. Like different cultures may have different approaches toward different things, and so you have to kind of be the advocate to.
Yes, absolutely. And then with patient education, that leads right into it. So if you're doing an evaluation and you have follow-up activities that you're explaining to the families, being aware, being able to explain that thoroughly to the patient in a way that the patient and the family will understand once you leave. What is the expectation to practice, whether it's cognitive therapy or whatever type of therapy exercises that you're providing with them. That's wonderful. And any other thing that you'd like to add about diversity in general within the field? I know less than 8% or about 8% of the population of speech pathologists are, Black or other, nationalities, Asian and Hispanic and so forth. What would be your thoughts about expanding diversity in our field?
As far as like attracting more therapists or just awareness to the different?
I think just awareness, awareness, because the world is more diverse and it would be nice to have more diverse speech pathologists in the field working.
Right. I think, I guess both things, it'll be good to attract more, being more proactive in colleges and or high schools and letting people know about the field. A lot of times I feel I've been in some homes where I've talked to high schools about the field. They ask questions more about the field, and also just the fact that when they're doing the standardized testing, when they are coming up with the assessments, when they're coming up with the treatment and all of those statistics, you want to make sure that you're including all cultures, and that it's fair, the test that it's fair, as opposed to making the standards and the norms and as far as treatment and all of that is concerned.
I like what you said about the high school and the recruitment of, right potential therapists of various backgrounds, because that's actually was my first exposure to the field was in high school. Senior year in high school, I was able to shadow different doctors and speech therapists, physical therapists in the hospital setting. And it was my guidance counselor who actually told me about a program in Miami Children's Hospital that I think the last couple of months of my senior year in high school, I was able to shadow various persons, people, including the speech pathologist. And that was one of my first things that sparked my interest in the profession. So I think that's very important. And I know you know quite a bit about emotional intelligence, and I want us to delve more into that topic, which is a very important topic. So I would like you to, for our listeners, to explain what is emotional intelligence, and then how do you see it being relevant to our work as pediatric speech language pathologists when we're working with children and families?
Emotional intelligence is just being able to connect with others and recognize the differences in others when you're communicating with them. The basis of it is connecting and interpreting emotions, as well as even knowing your own self-awareness of your emotions. And so it's very important when working with children, because a lot of times if you have a communication issue, you have difficulty communicating. And then if you're having something going on emotionally, you will have difficulty communicating that as well. And you also, it kind of ties into diversity, because you want to make sure that you're keeping aware that people have different beliefs, they have different values, they have different experiences and perspectives. And so instead of, you have to listen and take that into consideration, so that and be present in the moment to be able to connect, connect and build a relationship, build a rapport.
I think that's excellent. And I like what you said about self-awareness, right? Teaching children to be self-aware of their emotions and being able to regulate their emotions. So whether they're a child with a language impairment or a child with autism, that's a whole nother level there, or ADHD, right? Or a child that may have, or an adolescent with executive functioning issues. All of those are very important. And then you can, if they have goals related to pragmatic language skills or executive functioning or language disorder and ADHD, there's lots of things that we can do as therapists to weave those types of techniques and goals to help improve their communication skills and help them to be able to recognize the various feelings that they're having and be able to connect with them at the beginning of each session, that rapport building, right? That we check in with the kids. How are you doing? How was the day? How was the weekend? Give them an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. So just a quick little check-in. How are you feeling today? Type thing,
It helps with their relationships with one another, as well as skills that they're going to need ongoing,
And I have found, working with a lot of boys, African-American boys, other boys that have a language impairment, a lot of them have ADHD, and sometimes they get labeled as BAD, and they're not necessarily BAD, they just need a little TLC, which is what I say, a little TLC, tender loving care and empathy, right? Connect with them, build that rapport, show them that you care, and then the kids will make progress, right? And then those kids that are, being seen as being bad, they're really just needy. They need someone to care for them in the school setting or in a clinic setting or in a home health setting. And you can work on, weave those principles in when you're doing the therapy, I think that's important. And then what other facets of emotional intelligence do you think relates to children when you're working with them?
I think this kind of can tie into diversity and emotional intelligence. Sometimes it's when you are working with a child, this is a new, I guess it's not a new experience, but you serve as a case manager when you're in the school system, and some of the children that you serve, they may have other needs, not so much just speech needs, and so it's a present situation where it could be issues that's happening that's causing the child to fall academically, not just their communication, but other things. And so working with people, you have to realize, like, again, it's other, instead of making a rash judgment or rash decision, you have to take into consideration that there are other factors that might be going on. And a child with communication issues, they're not going to be able to just come right out. You're going to have to look at the whole situation and be able to understand or find more information and adapt accordingly to be able to help them with their needs. Mm-hmm. And I guess because, like, we're dealing with a pandemic, I'm gonna give an example of some children are having issues with the connection, the internet connection and things like that. And if you've grown up where you haven't had those type of experiences, you wouldn't know, that it exists, but it does, so being able to understand that that you got to look at all of the all of the different challenges that a child might have, and help them, and help them in that manner, and it can affect them as specific emotions. Yeah.
I agree. And then even just knowing some of the family dynamics in the household, sometimes a teacher or speech therapist may be wondering, why is the child doing this? Or, they may have to help a a younger sibling get ready to be on their Zoom lesson or whatever else. You might not know the other added responsibilities that they have, regardless of whether they have a communication or language disorder. So it's just I think the more that you get to know the children and families and really get to understand them, then you can help the children be more self-aware of their emotions and their feelings and all of that. And then you can help them develop more appropriate social skills too. Not everything you think you should say. What may be said in this environment may not be said in this environment, for them to learn over time. I'm thinking more to students with learning disabilities who can learn those types of skills.
And I think it's important to be able to just know that it's okay to talk about how you feel. Like it's just the way that you do, doing it the right way.
And I think sometimes it's
problems the right way,
Mm-hmm. And I think depending on when the kids are a little bit older, they might have like problem solution type goals on their IEP or critical thinking skills. And, I love literacy-based therapy. So that's always a great way to weave it in. And even if you're just working like on a task card or some kind of interactive activity, you can work on those kind of everyday life scenarios. What would you do if? What would you say if? Problem solving, but you make it really practical, for the kids. Like, this is happening. What would they do in this particular situation? So there's different ways that you can kind of weave that in for them. I think that's all good information, and then
I'm sorry. I was like, I tried that today in one of the literacy books. I didn't find the exact one that you had, but I did do that today in the story, and it was really good. And one of the books that helps with cultural awareness.
Yes, I think it's very important. It's amazing how emotional intelligence is really a skill that we all need, children and adults. So I know, what is your thoughts about how is it relevant to working with adult clients, home health clients, emotional intelligence?
Adult clients, again, it's just being present in the moment and listening to them. Not sometimes when we communicate with other people, we try to interpret what they're going to say next, and we have an answer instead of listening for understanding or listening for new information, and being able to, ask them questions to follow up and let them know that they're like how we feel about something. We're not going to always agree on it, but being able to come together and respect the differences, it lets the other person know that that their opinion is valid, that it says. And so, and also just being able to connect with them as well, because it does take connection and rapport to be able to establish a relationship when you're working with a client in therapy. And so, and even in some cases, you may have some difficult patients, and you still have to learn how to implement strategies to still have a positive therapy relationship and achieve around.
Yes, definitely. And I think with the adult patients too, it's just being able to, like you said, it's all about relationship building, being able to build the relationship with them. If they have a phase or something like that, it's building the relationship too with the caregivers so that when you're communicating information with them, that they understand what's going on. And then you can be empathetic to their particular situation and be motivated. Try to motivate them that, hey, you may have this goal, when you do treatment planning, you have this goal, this is what you want to achieve as far as your communication skills down the road. Being able to whatever their goal is, whatever they want to be able to communicate, if it's to return to work, return to some kind of vocational skill, being able to go back and volunteer at a particular place, whatever their end result is as a therapist you're working on. Building the relationship with them and giving them really functional therapy techniques and functional therapy activities so that they can achieve that short-term goal and then the long-term goal. So I like what you said in that emotional intelligence. You really just weave it into everything. It's really the relationship building, which I think is very important. How do you believe effective emotional intelligence can lead to strong interdisciplinary teams at work? I think that's a very important topic for good team building skills.
It's pretty much it's kind of the same response with environment, and you have to understand the difference in others because people are going to communicate different. They're going to learn different. They're going to be from different backgrounds, and so you want to take it into consideration. You want to make them feel like they're part of the team, valid. And when someone feels like they're a part of the team, you're taking in their perspective, then they're going to do well. You know, it's a positive. They're going to last. You don't have to pay for retraining. You don't have to pay to keep hiring new people because it makes a difference when you feel positivity and unity in your work environment.
Yes, I think that's important. And I think we touched on this before, value and respect, right? That's a big part of good team building skills, to respect the viewpoints of others, respect the opinions of others. And I think if you're in a team meeting, if they can set norms, what are going to be the norms and the mode of operation for this particular meeting so that everybody's on the same page, that all ideas are valued, we can agree and we can disagree, but we can share ideas and that all ideas are welcome. So whether you're in a rehab team, a school setting, your private clinic, you set the tone and environments, right? And, you know, we want it to be a positive environment. We know not all work situations are a positive environment. Some can be great, good, toxic, all everywhere in between, you know? So I think emotional intelligence is a skill that is needed for all individuals, the clients that we serve, ourselves, our coworkers, everything. And I think it's something that we all can work on, that self-awareness, the empathy, motivation, our own emotional regulations, especially with COVID and everything that's going on. Some family members have experienced grief, are experiencing grief, loss of loved ones who have passed away with COVID or been in the hospital or being quarantined, different things like that. So I think it's just an important skill, you know, to have, and being able to empathize with people and be authentic. I say authentic in our relationship building.
That's another point I was going to add. With leaders, sometimes their goals, they're trying to, whatever they're leading, they're good at their skill and they want to push making the goals happen. But in the same process, you have to have the soft skills, the people skills, be able to connect with people. Because people love that makes the work go round. So yeah.
Exactly. I remember when I used to work in the hospital outpatient clinic in peds, it's all about productivity because they're measured. At the end of the day, we had to say, you know, if you had 10 clients and 8 come, you have to 80% productivity or whatever the number of productivity. And if it was an hour client and 2 no-showed, then, oh, your productivity went down. Like, what do you mean you weren't productive? I worked all day, you know, but they're about the bottom line, but you're about serving the kids, right? Serving the children, serving the families, the adults. But so sometimes in leadership, the different leadership styles, right? And there's pros and cons to all of them, but it's just being able to recognize what, if you have an administrator or a rehab manager, or if you are the rehab manager, being able to realize the different personalities on your team and how we can respect each other's differences and come together where we can all be valued and have something to offer. So I think those are good, you know? This is a good topic, you know? Anything else that you'd like to add about emotional intelligence?
Right now, I just know that it's definitely good for your personal relationships and professional relationships. If you're thinking about leading a team, having a clinic, you know, if you're a speech pathologist and all that, you want to take all of that into consideration. Even as far as connecting with the families and the children and customers, you know, customer service, that you want to make sure that there's a strong element that you include in providing your services.
Yeah, and I think it's good. And I think when you have a nurturing environment, a good work environment, people are going to be more efficient in their job, more motivated to exceed, more productivity, all of those things. I think when the work culture is good, people will work. You know, and when the therapy environment is conducive, the kids are getting along in the same therapy group or a telepractice group session, when you provide that nurturing, loving, caring environment, the kids will be motivated to come. It's COVID season and I have students and children wanting to hug me in the middle of, you know, down the hallway or wherever I am. I'm like, oh, COVID. But it still translates, even in the mask and the face shield and all that stuff. You know, I say when you connect with the kids and the family or the adult client, it makes a world of a difference, you know?
say this little slogan, mask on, hands in your pocket, something. She made a little phrase, and I just thought, oh, that's cute. So it's like a reminder, like she made a song or a saying out of it when they was leaving the class.
Yeah, and I say mask up, over the nose. Do you have any final tips that you'd like to share overall about diversity or emotional intelligence, or about any resources that you think would be beneficial for speech pathologists, educators, or professional teams to grow, you know, leadership development, things of that nature?
Well, I guess as far as managing your emotions, I think I have like 3 steps. Maybe take a moment to breathe and evaluate the situation. Sometimes if you just kind of take a moment, stop and kind of think for a moment, relax, you'll respond differently. Two is listen with understanding, and three is express how you feel when the time is right. Sometimes you have to wait a minute, so you want to say the right thing, you want to be tactful, you want to display strong emotional intelligence. That means that you're managing your emotions. And
I like those tips. So listen, you said listen, breathe, listen, and speak when the moment is correct or more appropriate.
Right. And so I have a blog on my website about emotional intelligence, and I'm working on for the upcoming year. I'm working on a course and a workshop, so a lot of things in the making as far as emotional intelligence.
I think that's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful topic that it would be very applicable to pediatric speech pathologists, speech pathologists that work with the adult clients, and for corporate, you know, for leadership teams and various capacities, different businesses and so forth. I think the topic is just a well-needed topic. And the whole topic of diversity, inclusion, equity, all these things go hand in hand. Because to have a more equitable workplace, we have to be able to build proper relationships with people of various cultures, racial background, walks of life, socioeconomic status, all of that, right? We're all, you know, human beings under the same umbrella. Human race is what I call it, right? And then we have all the different similarities and differences, which what makes us all people, right? And relationship building is key. So this is a wonderful conversation this evening that we've had about diversity and about emotional intelligence. And I look forward to hearing more from you, Ms. Langford, about emotional intelligence and about your upcoming courses and stuff, such that you will plan for 2021. I can't believe that we're almost to the end of the year.
Yes, I can't believe it. Next week is Christmas.
Yes, we're almost there. So I know I wish you all the best with finishing up with your clients and so forth that you have for the rest of the year. And I know you'll have a wonderful, we're all looking forward to a good 2021. So let's claim it. They say don't claim it, but I'm claiming it. I'm claiming abundance and blessings and wonderful things, and for all of our clients and children and families and adults that we serve, you know?
Thank you so much. I enjoyed being on and talking with you.
Good. And I will provide some information in my blog with some contact information if any therapists or, you know, other folks would like to get in touch with you to talk more about diversity and emotional intelligence.
All right. Thank you so much again.
You're very welcome. It has been a pleasant evening.